distracted drivers.
The reason we chose to perform this experiment was because in 2011 I was riding in a car that got hit by another car that was driven by a distracted driver. He was changing the radio station. We wanted to find out which distracted people most.
My hypothesis was that I think that girls would be less distracted than boys because they are better at multitasking.
My hypothesis was that girls would be less distracted than boys, but because they do things like talking and texting so much that they can do it without looking.
We also think that teens will be better in texting because they do it so often. They do it more than the kids and the adults.
The materials we used for this experiment was a Wii system, including Wii remote and driving wheel, a Mario Kart Wii game, a television, a cup of water, a chair with a small table, an alarm clock with 5 push buttons, a cell phone, a home phone, and 2 iPod touches. We used the game Mario Kart to safely simulate driving in a real car because if we actually used a real car, we would have to pay a lot. And we told everybody they had to use Mario in a Super Blooper car on Luigi Circuit, and we picked Luigi Circuit because it looked the most like a road. We instructed everybody to stay in the right lane and not use speed boost, and if they went out of lane, we would mark it down on our results.
We did 7 tests with 6 distractions. For our first test, we did the free time trial where there was a run with no distractions. Then we did the drinking where we had them hold a cup of water in their left hand and then drink twice a lap while they were driving. Then we did talking where we asked them 2 math problems and 2 spelling questions during the run. Then we did yelling where we recorded some yelling and screaming on an iPod. And then we played it for them, and then we had them turn their head to look behind them and tell the kids to stop twice a lap. Then we did radio where we used an alarm clock to simulate a car radio, and we had them press 2 buttons a lap. Then we did the phone where we called the driver on their phone if they had one, or our phone, a phone. And then we asked them a question. For the texting, we texted them on either their phone or an iPod Touch, and we had them answer us back. And one thing that we told them not to do was never to stop. They could not stop. They were not allowed to stop and do the text and then keep going again. They had to keep going. And we also wanted everything to be the same. The same questions, the same amount of phone calls, the same amount of texts, the same yelling. So we wanted everything to be the same. And to test our hypothesis, we got boys, girls, young children, teenagers, and adults to do the tests.
This graph shows the amount of time it took each driver to complete 3 laps in every test. And the approximate time was 1 minute and 35 seconds, but in texting it took a lot longer. In this graph it shows the amount of times everybody went out of lane in each test, and the texting they went out the most, and then the free time trial and the talking they went out the less. the least. This chart shows the percentage of each distraction of number of times people went out of lane out of all the times people went out of lane. And texting is the most shaded because they went out most during texting, and the talking and the free time trial is covered the least because they went out the least during the test.
So this is our graph that shows averages of times out of lane by age group. So green is 12 and under kids, blue is teens, and red is adults. And everybody seemed to do the worst in texting, but the teens seem to do the best in texting. The adults seem to be bothered by the kids yelling, but the kids didn't really seem to mind it. Here we have our averages times out of lane by gender, and the males seem to do slightly better in everything but texting. There was a major difference in between the males and the females in texting. When we entered our results in the computer, we found that using the times out of lane was better than using the 3-lap time. So it was better for our results. We also found out that texting was the worst offender, followed by the answering the phone. And one thing to point out was that texting, it was way worse than it shows on any of these graphs. Because they would go out of lane and they would stay out there. They would drive in circles, they would drive backwards, they would drive the wrong way. And when they tried to go back into the lane, they would go right into the other wall. So it was much worse than any of these graphs.
We found a lot of differences between the males and the females and by age group. Our hypothesis was only half correct because we found that we predicted that girls would be better than boys in texting, but we didn't think that boys would be better in everything else.
Thank you. Do you have any questions?
How many people did you test?
We tested 29.
And how many girls, how many boys?
There were 13 girls and 16 boys.
And what did you learn from the whole thing?
We learned that don't do any of the distractions on the road. And don't bother your mom and dad while they're driving.
What did you learn, Emily?
We really shouldn't yell because it's really distracting.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. What's today's date?
It is 3/14/13.
March
14,
2013. Excellent. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.